This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on another segment for TechStrong TV. You know, in this segment, we're going to pick up one that we did last week, or continue one that we did last week, with a new company emerging out of stealth. CEO is a friend of mine, Andrew Greeley, and his co-founder, CTO, Mike Freeman. Right?
Dear.
Guys, welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy.
So Andrew, in our first interview, we talked a little bit about, the overnight success here of the company with Mike having to put 14 years into, evolving this thread intel technology that you guys have. What we didn't talk about was our relationship, right?
Right.
I've known Andrew here since 2005, and if you don't get embarrassed,
the big shimmy, mate.
Yeah,
let
me give you my background here, because I don't get a chance to do this enough, right? So I'm at Still Secure at the time, a company I helped co-found with some friends of mine, and we were doing an OEM deal with Extreme Networks, switch manufacturer, for something called NAC, Network Access Control, back in the day, and Extreme had called in one of their big customers, Deutsche Bank. 2 engineers from Deutsche Bank London came over.
Yeah.
One was a really nice guy. It's Bill Maughan's brother, and I forget his name now. His last name's Maughan, obviously, but what was his? Do you remember?
Mark Maughan?
What is his name?
Mark
Maughan?
Mark, yeah.
Right, and his brother was Bill Maughan, who was
Yeah.
over at CEA, who actually, Bill Maughan's now the CEO of Styra, CNCF, open source project. They're the commercial version of it, OPA. I don't know if you're familiar with Open Policy Agent. But it was Bill Maughan's brother, and then this crazy guy he was an Aussie, but living in London.
There's nothing wrong with me. I just had this twitch.
Yeah, I hear you. And I was there with my CEO, co-founder, Rajat Bhargava, and Raja and I went to lunch and said, we'll do what the Deutsche Bank folks need us to do for this product, but that Australian guy's brilliant. We need to get him over here. And lo and behold, it was probably about 2-3 months later, we brought Andrew Greeley here from London, or from Australia via London, to Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where, he was wanted to, he said, look,
The
can I
big
go
B,
on the POW, right?
Yeah.
Can I go in the POW?
I said, I'll come there, I'll work for you guys, and I'll make love to the power.
Right.
The wide, fluffy stuff of love.
Yeah.
I love to snowboard, and, in London, every day is, it's either rainy or cloudy.
Right.
Go to work in the rain, come home in the rain. And Boulder, Colorado, the second sunniest state in America.
Absolutely.
It's 330 days of sunshine.
Sunshine a year.
Yeah.
And a lot of snow. So
Yeah.
Andrew came and joined us. I've known Andrew since then. Of course, Andrew and Mike went on. Well, Andrew went to Nike, where you met Mike.
Yeah.
And what were you doing at Nike, Andrew?
So data scientist, cyber threat analytics. So finding the bad stuff in the data. So my job every day was find the bad stuff. And from those detections goes to the SOC, and also put in all the SOC tools, right? So your SOAR tools and all those parts. Fantastic job. I love being in data. I'm pig in mud in data. I look for find stuff of interest. And Mike was the SME for cyber threat intelligence. So CTA, cyber threat analytics, and cyber threat intelligence.
Got it. And so when did you guys get serious? I know you launched during COVID, right? Which, believe it or not, I think is a good time to launch a company, right? Because you don't launch a company when the market's out here. You launch a company when the market's here, and you ride that wave. But when did you guys get serious about, hey man, let's spin this out? You mentioned in the earlier one, it was almost unfair that only Nike had the benefit of this technology. But when did you get serious about doing a company around this?
Well, we spent quite a bit. We would go every Friday, we'd go out for lunch and got to really know each other and realized that we had a great deal in common, and talked about the technology that we were doing. And we decided, let's go to RSA last year, talk to a bunch of friends and see if there's value in this, if people would actually buy it. And we went to RSA last year, had a lot of meetings lined up, and the response was pretty overwhelming. So we decided there's something here. We went and got investment. And when the timing was right, we left Nike and decided to go stealth, kind of refine the product to what the customers needed. And here we are today.
Excellent.
Yeah, we did quite a few iterations, right? You can imagine in the threat intel space, And that's why I said that our nugget of gold is CVEs, because a lot of people you can focus on cybercrime. Like, where's all the credit cards? There's so much different intel, right? And Mike can do all the different parts of intel because he's done all those different parts. So which is the most consumable nugget? And when we saw that still 60% of companies compromise from unpatched vulnerabilities, we thought that's a big thing to improve on, right? There's that average cost on the Pwnymon Institute, which I think is a silly number, but it's that range, right? And a compromise doesn't cost you in money, it also costs you in time and effort and reputation for everyone. And we wanted to spend less time in any breach and more time on the beach, right? That's the way I think it. But given my wide skis, given how
you're not spending a lot of time on the beach. Yeah. Well, we'll keep you down here a little bit. We'll change that for you. So, so Nike was sort of using this technology not as it's packaged now as a product or a service, but now that you're in GA, other organizations, and I don't know if you're allowed to mention them, and please don't if you're not allowed to, but other organizations have kind of kicked the tires, battle tested this?
Yeah, we've got a few. Most of the clients we're focusing on are more the Fortune 500. So we've got a number of those big companies using it and being a bit gobsmacked. We've had some where we've prevented a big compromise from a big organization, and the great thing about that is that my friend works in that organization, and he got a promotion from it.
Really?
So he's an awesome guy, and just for him to call me and say, "Hey, I got a promotion. Your stuff helped me." I'm like, that's just the best thing you can have, right? A personal mate getting up and also protecting against a large compromise organization. So
Sure.
We've got a number of those as our reference customers and can talk about that.
That used to be one of the big problems in security, is that you never hear about the attack that didn't succeed.
Yeah.
You only hear about the attacks that do succeed. And I imagine that's a problem in the threat intel space, right? Because, it's almost like, how do you prove that attack would have happened? Even though, now you knew about it and you could do something, there wasn't necessarily that it was necessarily coming for you anyway. But, so there is that. It's like pinning ROI on security, right? It's that pin the tail on the donkey game that's a really hard game to win.
If I take that example, that was the RDP Blue Keep, right? And Mike, one difference we have is the way we do honeypots and that sort of stuff. Low interaction, high interactive. Mike, do you want to talk about that? And then I'll come back around for that same thing of how that timeline really helped.
Yeah, our design is not just specifically looking for what people are saying. We targeted a vast different approaches within the intelligence component, whether it be signals intelligence, things like that. We also have, for example, honeypots that were designed based upon Haskell-like virtual machines. We can make them look like whatever we want, but it's not just about having honeypots scattered all over the internet. We base them on business verticals, geographic areas, and technology stacks. So they look like real environments at a low cost for us. And so we can design them to make them look like we want to attract attackers' attention in Central and South America for certain types of exploits, or in the Middle East, things like that. And so that's where we focus our targeted approach on that side of things.
So on that one there, you see a great example, like, you don't hear about it a lot of times when people prevent, because you don't want to say that you could have gotten compromised. That one there was the Blue Keep, right? The RDP public internet, the millions of hosts compromised. We found it on our honeypot 10 days earlier than it got released. We saw them on Shodan. They were publicly accessed all that organization. It's like, hey buddy, you need to do this. It's coming up. We've talked to Microsoft, because we talk to the vendors as well as soon as we find out something, because we want that to match what we've seen in the wild.
Sure.
To say, oh, that is that case. You are patching that, and Bob's your uncle there. So we have all these timelines of when we found this intel, when we added it to our list, and when it happened. So that makes it easier, and we also have it in GitHub, so we have the whole history of when people say, did you really find that then? I'm like, well, you can go through our Git. Well, once you're a customer, or we can show you, the GitHub history, and you can see that whole line of provenance, because we want provenance in the whole list there.
Yeah. That brings up another issue around the whole threat intel stuff. The whole threat intel model, if you will, is, if you're a large organization, good threat intel is not cheap. It's not, when you look at what it can save you, it's not prohibitively expensive, but it's not cheap. And the idea of having to have, multiple threat intel providers to get sort of that 360-degree view of your risk or your potential. Is that kind of the model where like your customers have multiple threat intel providers?
In the Fortune 500, everyone has lots of providers, right? Our view is, for us, it's Pareto's law, right? And the hard thing there is when I talk about actionable intelligence as well, right? You can get intelligence, but whether you can act upon it, it's another thing. So we say that if the largest compromise still today is unpatched, let's go fix that problem first, right? And that's Pareto's law, right? For other parts, and then you can use our stuff as well for the supplier risk. Is my suppliers being secure? Is my zero trust, right? Help on that whole model there. So that's why we spend a lot of time working out which nugget in Intel can give us the best value across the organization. And when you get that, some parts will be, as I said, cybercrime. I did that for many years for the bank, right? That helps one part of the bank, but it doesn't help all the parts. Right? Whereas we see with this, you can go and there's a vulnerability maturity model, right? Which is in level 5, you're using threat intelligence. Because in the world where we're going to is intelligence-driven organizations, right? So if you use our intel, you've gone from a person starting day 1 in VM to be a level 5 maturity model making that organization. So we've gone level 1 to 5 or 0 to hero, we call it, in that path. So that's where we said, what can we give you today that makes you give the best benefit for your organization and for your staff? Because we can't get good people, right? Getting good people is really, really hard. And if I can make that analyst day 1 make better decisions they could do for the whole organization, and with the cool list, you can use it within 5 minutes. You don't have to have integrations to all your SOAR, and you don't have to have all these integrations. You get a ticket for the list and you say, here's what I need to do. Do we have this? Yes. I need to make this priority, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where we see the most important thing about having threat intel as well as being effective, right? How effective can you be? And some intel you can't be effective at all, or you look at it as a long-term trend. Right, so some things we do is in trending. We see when Bitcoin goes up, they compromise WebLogic service because they want to mine it. When Bitcoin goes down, we see it moves towards ransomware. It's like we call it like the threat clock, right? So we change what we focus on as well, where the threat actor's moving and what they're doing.
Got it. Excellent. I don't even remember the start of the thing. We mentioned the company, right? Did we give the website? I know we did on our last interview.
Yeah.
Well, but there's a second interview. People may not have seen the first.
Yeah, we'd love you to come do a demo at ctci.ai. Actually, I'll get Mike to say it because my Australian accent, people keep writing ctza.e. So, Mike, if you talk through it.
It's ctci.ai.
ctc.ai is a free trial on there. Company is CTCI. Andrew, Mike, hey man, thanks for being with us on the second interview here. It's nice of you to, while we got you in Florida, what the heck.
Thanks.
Hey, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back on TechStrong TV.